Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn the part third of Comedy of Errors as we divided the plot, and we are learning about it. In the first part, we learn how the character of Eugene come to the city of Ephesus in search of his son, and he told his sad story to the Duke of Ephesus. Now, uh, after that, in the next part, we learn how it is a creation of confusion due to the mistaken identity, and how the character of Andrina get angry on her husband. And now, in the part third, we are going to learn the next part of it, that is how the Romeo and all the characters mistakenly there are two twin brothers, that's why there is a two characters mistaken identity is taken into consideration, and it is a creation of a great comedy in the comedy of errors. So now the next part, that Angela's friend was planning a trip abroad and was trying to raise money for the journey. The goldsmith owed some money to him. Now the friend asked him if he could give his dues. Angelo promptly agreed but pointed out that he did not have ready cash at that moment. But as Antipholus owed him the sum he was due to pay his friend, he would get it from Antipholus and pay him. So the two went to seek Antipholus from Ephesus and met him as he was just coming out of the house of the courtesan. Having taken his food, she had given him a diamond ring, and he promised her that in return he would give her the gold chain. So, when he was the goldsmith, he demanded the chain. The goldsmith asked him money for the chain. He told the goldsmith to deliver the chain and get the money immediately. The goldsmith was surprised. He pointed out that he delivered the chain to him 1 hour before, and how can Antipholus demand it again? Now, the Antipholus from Syracuse was given the chain, and now Antipholus of Ephesus demanding the chain, gold chain from goldsmith. It is the creation of confusion due to the mistaken identity. Now it was Antipholus' turn to be shocked and surprised. He denied having received any chain from the goldsmith. Now it occurred to the goldsmith's friend that the goldsmith would not pay him money. He probably had taken this possibility into consideration, so he had the officer of law with him. He requested the officer to arrest the goldsmith for failing to repay the amount which was due to him. Angelo was formally arrested. For now, the goldsmith in turn invited the officer to arrest Antipholus for not paying the price of the chain that he delivered to him an hour ago. The officer arrested Antipholus too. To the free Antipholus must pay the fine due to the law. So he sent Romeo home to Andrina to bring the money and get his release. In the meantime, Antipholus from Syracuse was wandering alone, awaiting his Dromio with the news of the boat of to leave. During his wandering, he had come across a number of people who seemed to know him. They greeted him warmly, spoke to him with respect, and bade him good day. Now Romeo came to him, and instead of giving him the rope he had asked him to buy, he gave him money. Antipholus asked him about the boat and about the rope, and Romeo in return told him that he never asked him to do that inquiry. Now, this Dromio is another Dromio. He reminded Antipholus how he was arrested and how he sent Dromio home to bring the ransom money. He wondered how Antipholus got free without paying the amount. All this was meaningless and senseless talk for Antipholus, and he was in no mood for humor. Poor Romeo found himself bitten by his master, the wrong master again, the Antipholus of Syracuse. Antipholus of Ephesus was tired of waiting for Dromio now and ransom money. Why not go and get the money himself? So he requested the officer to walk with him to his home. The officer agreed and learned that Dromio had already left with money. Sensing the situation, Luciana paid the officer and the officer went away. Dromio's going away with the amount and not meeting his mother, his master, continued to be the mystery. Andrina came at this very moment. When he saw her, he angrily asked her why she shut him out of door at dinner time. Did she know that because of her tantrums he had to feel ashamed of himself in front of his friends whom he had brought with him for food? How could Andrina accept the charge when she had taken her lunch with him? She told him so, and he was furious. Andrina was now certain that her husband has lost his head. Probably some ghost had possessed him. She thought luckily schoolmaster Pinch who could treat the possessed people was with her at that moment. She consulted with him, called other servants from the house, and they together got hold of Antipholus. This was his second arrest in 1 hour. They not only caught him, but on Andrina's officer order, tied him securely and put him in a room in the house and locked the room from outside. Pinch and others were placed as guards to keep a watch on him. The courtesan met Antipholus from Syracuse. She demanded the chain that he had promised her. Now, Antipholus second. Which chain? What was the she talking about? He had not promised any chain to her. He even did not know her, he said. She tried to remind him that he had promised the chain, and in return she gave him her diamond ring. He denied both, and that made the courtesan furious. She demanded the ring back. Where was Antipholus going to give it if he had never taken it from her? He even denied to have taken food with her that day. On hearing this, she came to the conclusion that Antipholus had become mad. She went to Andrina and complained to her about this, and this gave one more tool to Andrina to prove her husband mad. Though she did not believe the courtesan, how could she? Her husband had taken his food with her. No. Few minutes later, Antipholus met Angelio. Angelio saw the chain around his neck and asked if he received it from him. Antipholus admitted it as a fact. Then why did he lie earlier to the goldsmith? When he came for the money, all his trouble would have been saved. He said he would not have been arrested and fined. He said Antipholus rejected that, he denied the fact and that he was arrested. He told Angelio that they were meeting for the first time after he delivered the chain to him. While they were still engaged in this exchange, Andrina, Luciana, and others came there. Andrina was told that somehow Antipholus had succeeded in escaping the locked room and was roaming the streets of Syracuse in a dangerous way. They had come to catch him again, but now Antipholus escaped. He succeeded in running away and sought shelter in the abbey nearby. Dromio, of course, followed him. The abbess came to see what was going on because she heard a lot of commotion. Andrina demanded to her that Antipholus should be handed over to her, but the abbess refused either to let any person in or give the possession of Antipholus to Andrina. On the contrary, she blamed and scolded Andrina for treating her husband so harshly. The abbess went back to her monastery after this. So Andrina decided to appeal for justice to the Duke, who was fortunately coming in their direction. The time was evening. The sun was about to set. Igunnar was unable to raise the ransom money within the stipulated time, so his fate was decided. He could be hanged, and the soldiers were taking him to the hanging place, and the Duke accompanied them. The road to the hanging place ran past the monastery. Andrina appealed to him for justice. She told him how the abbess had refused to hand over her husband to her, and how, on the contrary, she upbraided her. At this very moment, a servant came running. He told that his master Antipholus has got free. He had beaten Pinch up and was coming, sword drawn, in that very direction. He was mad with fury and bent of punishing his wife. How a person who had entered the monastery just a few minutes ago could be seen roaming the streets of Syracuse. The news frightened Andrina, but the Duke told her that there was nothing to worry about while he was present there. Antipholus would not behave rashly in his presence. He pointed out to everybody's surprise. Antipholus really came there, followed by Dromio. On seeing the Duke, he too appealed to him for justice. He complained against his wife, who shut him out of his own house, denied entry for when he came home for food, and locked him up, saying that he was uncontrollable and mad. Andrina refused the earlier charges and said that her husband took food with her that day. Luciana corroborated her statement, but the prostitute gave a counter story when she admitted that Antipholus took food with her in her house and told the Duke the story of how she gave him her diamond ring and returned to be promised to give her the gold chain, but actually latter refused that. She gave him the chain. Antipholus admitted that he took her ring and promised her the gold chain, but added that he did not receive the chain from the goldsmith as promised. He also said that he never refused the receipt of the ring. His, he further complained that he was arrested at the goldsmith's request for the chain, which he did not receive from the goldsmith. Angelio wondered how Antipholus could first refuse, then accept, and then refuse the receipt of the chain. Even Solinus, the Duke, was confused and baffled by all those claims and counterclaims. Old Eugene, who had been patiently listening the drama, his head bent, now looked up for the first time and found to his surprise that his very son Antipholus was standing before his eyes. He obviously addressed him as son. He had, "Are you Antipholus? And is that your servant Dromio? Then how is it that you do not recognize me, your father? It is quite likely that I have changed in the course of all these years, but how can a son fail to recognize his father?" Antipholus now looked at old Igni. He told the Duke that he was seeing the old man for the first time in his life. Even the Duke corroborated his statement, saying that old Eugenie was imagining things that he knew Antipholus from his infancy. At this very moment, the abbess returned with her charges, Antipholus and Romeo. Everyone was confused on seeing two Antipholus and two Romeos. Antipholus of Syracuse, who had just come out, recognized his father and went to him. Even the abbess went close to him, made sure who the old man was, and called him Eugenie. The old man looked at her closely and recognized her as his wife Emilia. She told her story to the people present. She said that a boat from Epidamnum saved them, but the pirates from Corinth forcibly took away both her infants, and having left nothing to live for, she became an abbess and was there at that moment. There was no problem now in proving that the two twins are brothers. Solinus could see that they were back to the old Eugenie tale which he narrated in the morning. All the present became aware that the confusion was due to two pairs of identical twins in the same town. Everyone was meeting the wrong person, and that had caused all the confusion and misunderstanding throughout the day. Obviously, it was time to forget and to forgive. Husband and wife were reunited. The two pairs of twins met their other brothers. Luciana had no problem in accepting Antipholus as her husband, and Rina willingly agreed to their marriage, and misunderstanding of the goldsmith and the courtesan was cleared, and they pardoned Antipholus, and having reunited with his lost family, Eugenie was saved from the gallows, and the duke blessed the family. All's well that ends well. That was the outcome of the day's confusing and baffling activities. So, here we can understand how, due to the identical twins, there is a creation of confusion, and those mistaken identities create a humor in the play. So, here we end